Howdy, hi, and hello. Welcome to Noah's Nest. If you don't know what Noah's Nest is, first of all, I am Noah, and in this show, I will help you create different characters from different TTRPGs, maybe teach you how to play a TTRPG, or just pick a topic that I find interesting. And today, well, I got some new TTRPGs that came in the mail a little bit ago, so I'm going to do one of them today. I haven't played it yet, but I am very excited to at some point. So today, I'm going to help you learn how to play Tiny Gunslingers. This is by Alan Bahar. This is one of the other, if I want to say, there are other games such as Tiny Dungeons and Tiny Frontiers and a bunch of others made by the same guy. And they all relatively have the same dice rolls or idea of how to play, but each of them have different aspects. Like Gunslingers, you'll deal with guns, and there's a thing called grit in this book that I will get to later, and a bunch of different traits. And in a bunch of others, like Tiny Dungeons, which I will do at a later point, have like magical items, more races or species or traits of the sorts. But yeah, today I'll do something simple, something really easy. Tiny Gunslingers. In this game, the only things that you will need at least two players. One person to be the dungeon master or game master, and the other person to be a cowpokes or a player, a character. The other thing that you will need will be 3 d6s, or you can do one and just roll multiple times, but it will be easier if you have 3 d6s. A piece of paper to write down your different traits and what your cowpoke wants to be, and maybe some other tools if you want NPCs or anything else in the game. I do like this book because it does do like a somewhat warning about the history and harm that Western has dealt with very bad history and done with possibly racism, colonialism, and some other stuff. They emphasize they are not focusing on that form of Western. If you think that you have to be in that state of mind to play this sort of game, you probably shouldn't, because this is more for just think of a Western showdown. It's not like, oh, you're this because of this, I gotta kill you now. It's more just the feeling of a Western showdown. It's tense. You are a sheriff or something trying to get your town or whatever safe. In this game, it is mainly storytelling. You don't really have to roll every single thing that is in front of you or that is around you. There is a thing called a test. It's just you are pretty much rolling a dice. So whenever you have to do a test, you will always roll 2d6. The only way to pass is by getting a 5 or 6 on one of them. Simple as that. You don't need to add them up to get to a different number. You don't have to do something else that I can't think of right now. You just have to get a 5 or a 6 on either of the dice. And if it happens, you succeed and you continue on with your story. In your character creation, I did say you need 3d6. Well, this comes into play. In your character creation, your cowpoke creation, some traits that you gain let you have an additional d6 for certain situations. So if it fits in your trait, you gain that extra d6, and you get to roll 3. Same thing, 5 or 6 on any of them, you succeed. That's when you gain advantage. But there's such a thing called disadvantage, where something might happen and situationally you won't be able to get that advantage, and you won't be able to be at a flat roll. Instead of rolling 2d6, you just roll 1d6. But still, same thing. If you get a 5 or a 6, you are in the clear. Your dice will never be at 0. So if you have 3 disadvantages on you, you don't roll nothing. You will just constantly roll a 1d6 for now. If there's a situation that gives you an advantage and a disadvantage, sadly the disadvantage will win. No matter what in this game, if a disadvantage is equal or above an advantage, you will have to have a single dice. But if you have 2 advantages over a disadvantage, you can just roll your normal 2 dice. There are obstacles in this game, or challenges that you can do, where you could attempt to barter with a merchant, hack a control panel, resolve a conflict with words. You and your GM can decide if that is worth rolling a test or not. If you think if it's resolving a conflict with words, if you can role play well enough, maybe your GM can let it slide and you won't have to roll. There is a save test where it's pretty much a saving throw in D&D. Something happens unexpectedly, and if you are able to succeed, you won't get hurt or whatever. It's the same thing, 2d6. If you succeed, you survive the dangerous thing. There are life and death scenarios in your save tests where if you do fail, you could just be outright killed. But who knows how that GM will play. Next up is combat. In this one, whenever you are about to get into a fight and you have to roll initiative, you roll 2d6, a test, and you just add both of the numbers together. Whoever has the highest one gets to go first. If you happen to tie with an enemy, you will always go first, no matter what. So, during your combat actions, you get to do 2 different actions. So you can either move, attack, or do something else. If you move, it's 1 action. If you attack, it's 1 action. If you want to, you can move twice as both of your actions, or attack twice as both of your actions as well. Most of the time, if you are proficient in your certain weapon, you will just roll your normal 2d6. But there are some traits where you get to master certain weapons, and if you are able to do that, you will get to roll 3d6. And it's the same thing as any other test. If you roll a 5 or a 6 on any of them, you succeed. And if you succeed in a combat roll to attack, they just deal 1 damage. Regardless of the weapon, you will just deal 1 damage. There are some weapons that might be able to do more, maybe some abilities that you are able to deal more damage, but every weapon will only deal 1 damage. So other than moving and attacking, there are a couple other actions that you can do in combat. You can focus, evade, suppress fire, or cover. If you want to focus, the next time you would attack, you will be able to succeed on a roll on a 4, 5, or 6. Pretty much, you were wasting one of your actions to steady your aim and then fire to get a better chance. If you want to evade, at the start of your next turn, you can do a test of a 1d6. If you were successfully hit by an enemy and your evade test is successful, you evade the attack and you don't take any damage at all. If you happen to suppress fire, you'll make an attack at disadvantage every time an enemy enters the area you're suppressing. And if you decide to take cover, all enemy attacks from one direction gain disadvantage. So you can swap around, you can attack and then go into cover. You can move and then suppress fire. You could focus and then attack. It's really up to you how you want to change things around. There are 3 different types of weapons in Tiny Gunslingers. There's a melee, light ranged, and heavy ranged, but I will get into that a little bit further, what some of those weapons will be. For hit points, every single character has 6 hit points, and the only way to gain back your hit points is by sleeping for at least 4 hours in the game to regain all your strength back. But if you don't sleep for the full 4 hours, you are only able to regain 1 hit point for every hour of sleep. So, speaking of hit points, there's a thing called death in the game. It'll happen. If you ever reach 0 hit points, you are knocked unconscious. And without further assistance, you are able to succumb to your wounds and die. If you're at 0 hit points, on your turn in combat, you can do a save test to stabilize yourself. If you are successful, you gain 1 hit point back, and it will be the end of your turn. If you fail the first time, you get 1 last chance of surviving on your own. It's pretty much, this is your only saving grace. If you happen to fail, on your second turn, you make 1 more saving test, but at disadvantage. And if you happen to fail, sorry, but your character has died. But there is a good thing. While you're unconscious, an ally can come over to help you stabilize. They will have to make a saving test. And if they succeed, they restore 1 hit point. There are items that you can heal them a bit quicker or give them a boost, like a doctor trade or possibly medical equipment, but the ally has to be next to you to do any of this. Hiding and seeking, you roll 2d6, and if you're successful on it, you hide. Same thing with seeking. If an enemy chooses to seek for an action and they succeed, well, then they spot you. So there is a different idea, a different thing for shootouts. Now this is kind of really cool. They instead of just rolling dice and being like, yep, you hit or you miss, you get to play a different version of blackjack. If a shootout is between 2 characters, either a cowpoke or NPC, after determining who is in the shootout, the GM will take the deck of cards and deal 1 card face up to each player. Then the GM will deal 1 card face down to each player. The cowpoke or GM can look at the face down card in front of them, but no one else should see it. Then, starting with the character with the highest value card face up in front of them, they can choose one of the following 3 options. They can hit, the character will get another face up card, they can stand, where they get no cards but hold, or they can shoot. If they shoot, everyone has to reveal the cards that they have immediately. If everyone in the shootout stands, they are all allowed one more chance to change their opinion, and if they still stand, they will proceed to shooting. If someone picks shoot, the lead starts to fly. All the cards are stopped being dealt, and the highest total of cards that doesn't exceed 21 gets to make their attack. This attack will automatically hit if you succeed the shootout, and you will get to deal 1d6 of damage. That could kill someone outright. If other participants are still standing, in the descending order value, allow them to make their attack that deals 1d6 damage. So, now for the cowpoke creation. In this game, you get to choose 3 traits, a weapon that you are proficient in and a mastery in. You get to get some gear, and you get some grit. And I will tell you what some grit is in a little bit. So, with the weapons that you can be proficient in, keep it in the setting of a Western. As I said before, there are 3 different types of weapons in the game: melee, light ranged, and heavy. You will choose one of those to be proficient in. So you might say you want to be proficient in lightweight weapons. Well, that could be pistols, that can be like small machine guns, whatever. But then you get to choose one weapon from that group to master in. So you want to be proficient in light range weapons, but you want to master in the flintlock pistol or whatever. Or maybe a melee weapon. You want to be proficient in melee, but master in daggers. Simple as that. Talk to your game master and see what weapons work in the setting. Everyone with gear will get 10 dinero and a traveler's kit. Dinero is money in this game, and you'll be easily able to get some more as time goes on. We reach to where grit is. At the start of each session, each cowpoke gets 3 grit. This is like your willpower, fortitude, maybe like inspiration, if you want to say. So you're able to do some different things with grit. You can spend a grit to reroll a failed test. The reroll will be at disadvantage, but you also can't reroll the test if you have already rerolled it. You could also spend a grit to look at a face down card in a shootout. You could spend 2 to swap out a face down card in a shootout, even your opponent's. Or you could spend 3 grit, where if an attack hits you, you could make it miss instead. The only way to recover grit is by collecting bounty. If you happen to kill, capture, or arrest someone with a bounty, you recover 1 point of grit per bounty that the wanted scum has. You can have more than 3 grit at a time, but there are some traits that you can give grit to other players. So bounty could be some petty crimes, could just be 1. Someone stole someone else's horse, that could be 2. 3 could be the bounty, someone killed someone else. 4 could be killed a whole passel of someone's, or a whole entire tavern of someone's. Or it could be 5, where they might be wanted by the outlaw. For traits, there are quite a few pages of different traits that you can choose from, and you get to choose 3 of them. So I'll go through a couple of them. You could choose engineer. When you are maintaining, managing, or repairing equipment, you gain advantage, so you get to roll 3. Judge. You may spend 1 grit to increase the bounty on a target by 1. Outlaw. You gain advantage on tests to avoid detection or capture by the law. Animal. Empathy. You are able to communicate with animals loosely, understanding their body language and noises. This form can communicate is primitive and very simplistic. You can't convey any complex ideas. Dark Fighter. You do not suffer disadvantage for having your sight impaired. Fleetfoot, your speed increases from 25 feet to 30 feet. Marksman, when you focus on your next attack with a ranged weapon, is successful on a test of 3, 4, 5, or 6. There are so many that you can choose from, and they are all extremely useful. So with weapons, there are certain melee weapons that you can choose, like an axe, a baton, brass knuckles, a hammer, a knife, dagger, simple melee things. They'll cost between 1 to 5 dinero, which is a general idea. Light range could be a crossbow, a revolver, shuriken, throwing knives, sling, anything of that sort. That can be from 1 to 20 dinero. And then heavy range could be a buffalo rifle, a shotgun, a longbow, Gatling gun. That will be between the ranges of 10 to 25. There are ways to get money in this game, but you will always start with a weapon and a basic pack. Some of the equipment that you can also get is a common item, like probably a backpack, maybe a lantern, rope, sleeping bag, whatever. It's 1 to 5. Uncommon could be an arm shield, lock picks, pocket watch, mining tools, something that's more hard to get around, 1 to 20. And then rare could be a disguise kit, traveling papers that are forged, poisons, gold nuggets, more harder stuff to get throughout the Western, and that could be 10 to 25. A normal cowpokes kit will have a sleeping bag, a holster belt, a saddle. You will get a horse, which is surprising, a lantern with 72 hours of oil, water, 50 feet of strong cord, and then 7 days of rations and a poncho. I'm surprised you get a horse. There are a bunch of different enemies that you can get to. Pretty much one hit is 1 damage, where you could have just a basic enemy or an animal or a normal civilian. They could have 1 hit point. Maybe a small group of enemies or outlaws could have 3 to 5 hit points, but it'll slowly get higher. There's a heroic threat where they're more skilled than average cowpokes. They might have some traits of their own. They could have 9 to 14. And there's a solo, which is kind of your main boss, which would have 15 or more. There's a couple different tables that you can roll. There's different laborers that you can talk to in this game as well. Different locations, like a manor, the Golden Elk. And there are a bunch of other places that you could try out. Yeah, this was Tiny Gunslingers. It's really cool in my opinion. I really want to try this out. It's very simple. Roll 2d6, get a 5 or a 6. And this game is probably more for 1 or 2 shots, in my opinion. You could probably make a campaign out of it, but the traits are really cool. It's really easy to deal with grit and your testings. Enemies and places will just flow on through. So yeah, if you want to check this out, you can check on Amazon, you can check on ttrpg, eBay, Mercari, all these other places. This is a really cool book. But anyway, thank you all for listening to Noah's Nest. I hope you are all comfy. I hope you all are enjoying the holidays coming up. We're only a week away, which is completely crazy to me. We will have a best of, and then after that we will be, better thing to say, I will be talking about future endeavors or possible things coming up, or maybe some things that you wonderful viewers can do. So yeah, if you like this episode and want to hear more, like, share, comment, rate us 5 stars. Check out a bunch of our other stuff that we have done in the past. We really do appreciate everything that you guys do. And we really do thank you for joining us throughout the year and the years throughout time. So, thank you all once again. Share to everyone that you can. Really do appreciate it. And as always, see you, love you, miss you, goodbye.